Well, a lot to unpack. There's no doubt about that. We're in the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Studio. It is the Project Game Day post-game show. Glenn Clark, Ken Zalis, Ravens fall. Not without some thrilling moments near the end, but ultimately was not to be for them against the Pittsburgh Steelers today, as they'll drop to 5-2 on the season. Project Game Day postgame show brought to you by Wise Markets and the U.S. Army. Ken, there's so many places that we can go on this one. I think the major storyline today, and I wrote about this at PressBoxOnline.com last week, is that unfortunately that's 2 tries against the Pittsburgh Steelers and 2 bad games for Lamar Jackson. And we can sugarcoat it, and we can admittedly say that he's played really well in just about every other game, but he's had 2 tries against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's 0 for 2. He's played poorly in 2 games against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you can complain about the play calling, you can complain about the officiating, it sucks to lose Ronnie Stanley, and the Matt Judon things, but you can do all that you want. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson has had 2 tries against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and while he technically won one last year, he's 0 for 2 in playing not just at an MVP standard, but playing even well in those football games. And I think we have to acknowledge that and say that right now that's a significant issue that he can address again in 3 weeks. But at the moment, it's a significant issue.
And he'll say he didn't play well enough, and he'll put it on himself, and that's fine. That's what the leader of your team should do. And he was awful today. I mean, we can all go back, and I don't even have the stats in front of me.
I'll pull him up.
But he was awful.
No, he was no good. He was, throwing the ball. He made obviously some more nice plays running the ball.
Yes. Look, the one play that Skura held and would have been a highlight reel play.
He didn't really hold, but that didn't.
He pulled on the show. Right, whatever. I mean, we're not gonna.
No, but and also they scored on that drive anyway, so not even.
They did. Yeah. They did. He was awful throwing the ball. He made bad decisions. He's lucky he only had 2 picks.
Yep.
Probably should have had 4, at least 3.
By the way, he finished 13 of 28.
And it's like, I can't even complain about the things I would normally complain about with a Ravens loss because they ran the ball, and they ran the ball effectively. Now, you come out at halftime, we can nitpick the first play of the second half to say, why are we throwing the ball? I don't like when you're running the ball as well as the Ravens were running the ball. I don't like any play call in any situation where you are empty backfield.
I agree with that 100%.
Because all of a sudden, what do we have to do for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who plays Lamar about as well as anybody because they see Lamar more than anyone, outside of division, obviously. But we know it's one of 2 things. They're throwing the ball, or Lamar's going to, run the ball up the middle, or it's not hard.
I mean, in the Steelers' minds in that scenario, the best case scenario is that he throws the ball because he was not good at throwing the football today.
But it's not hard to defend. There's no RPO. There's
correct.
They were running. Both Edwards and Dobbins were terrific today.
Yes.
Absolutely terrific.
Yes.
The offensive line, even when Stanley went out of the game, they were actually better running the ball.
By the way, as a team, they ran for 5.6 yards per carry today, and that's with Lamar only averaging 4.1. Gus Edwards averaged 5.4 yards per carry. J.K. Dobbins 7.5.
The offensive line, the run. They were opening holes. They were holding onto their blocks outside of 1 or 2 times. They weren't really holding. They were just they looked like they were enjoying themselves running the ball. And we come out in first play. It's like, we're going to fool them. We're smarter than they are. They think we're going to run the ball because we ran the ball better than anybody else.
Right.
So we're going to throw a pass. Now,
but that doesn't. And that's the
has
thing.
to play better and can't throw that ball
and
where he threw the ball.
This is where I struggle,
yes.
Ken, because the easy thing to do today is to say, well, the problem was they didn't run the ball enough. When the truth is they ran the ball a ton
again
today.
This loss is on Lamar. Lamar did not play well. Now, defensively, the Steelers made the adjustment they should have made at halftime, which is we need to spread these guys out and get the ball out of Ben's hands quicker. And that's what they did in the second half, and it worked.
They went empty backfield. They had great success with it, 100%. 100%.
You know, our defense, I mean, there's some guy, I don't even know who he is, Bond, who...
Terrell Bonds.
I didn't realize we were that desperate in the secondary. This guy was on the field a whole bunch.
I was a little confused by how much we saw of Terrell Bonds myself.
Okay, and the only reason I know his name is because of all the stupidity that he caused while he was in the game.
I mean, a little bit, yes. I mean, the problem, what you're saying, you're making it seem like he was responsible for 12 plays or something like that.
Saying,
the only times you heard about him was in negative ways.
I didn't know he was on the team until today.
Well, I mean, technically, he was a practice squad player that got called up.
But
yes.
Pass interference, I mean, I did not realize we were so desperate in the secondary that we were bringing practice squad people up to play significant minutes and plays against the Pittsburgh
they don't
Steelers.
have a fourth cornerback on this roster. They don't. I mean,
you got some guys.
They put a lot of
safety and.
I hear you, but name who's the fourth cornerback on this football team?
There's probably not.
There isn't one.
Okay.
They don't have a fourth corner on this roster. They put a lot of eggs in the Tavon Young basket.
Yes, they do.
Which. You know,
we can revisit that another time.
Here's the good news: Eric DeCosta's done so many good things.
Yeah, I know you give a pass.
You got to
give a pass,
right?
But look, I mean, people are going to say, we lost 2 offensive linemen today, and Juden got thrown out on a. If you're a Ravens fan, it's a totally bogus ejection. But the bottom line is, the rule book says if you touch the official, you leave the field.
Yes.
I mean,
was
he trying to hit the official?
No, and that's why. Like it's weird saying the rule book. The rule book is if you intentionally do it. Like there is room in there for there to be.
We've seen that in other places.
I am not angry about that. I'm angry that the rules don't allow for there to be greater discussion.
Correct.
And
Ferguson played really well. Bowser played pretty well.
For the most part.
For the most part,
yep.
I thought those guys played well. It's just there's nothing much to say besides Lamar was not good enough.
And this is the problem is we can dissect every other aspect of this football game, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's Lamar. And for me, the problem is now we have multiple games.
Yes.
It's one thing when I could say a year ago, okay, it's one goofy game where Lamar didn't play well and he was brilliant the rest of the season, so it's not a narrative to me. I pointed it out in a column because my buddy who's checking back in, I have a Steelers fan friend who reminded me of it this past week, so I decided to write a column about it. But I said, look, it's one game. As long as it's one game and he plays well this week, one game does not a narrative make. But now we've got 2 games that both happen to be against the same opponent. And to be fair, the Steelers' defense is better than most defenses that you face. Let's not hide from that. But this is not judging Lamar Jackson against unanimous MVP standard. This is simply judging Lamar Jackson, did he play well or not? If Joe Flacco played this way, we'd beat up Joe Flacco.
Correct.
It doesn't matter that he's the MVP. He's not played well twice against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a problem. Now, there will be those of you that are the dumbest of the dumb that will try to say, well, this is always what happens when Lamar plays in a big game. That's not true. Lamar played big games a year ago. He went to Seattle and beat the Seahawks. He beat the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Stop trying to make it seem like there's a narrative about whenever it's a big game. That's not the case. Now, you remember big games where he didn't play well far more than you remember the flip side of that. He hasn't played well against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's a problem because you need to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the end of that conversation. You're going to have to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers and likely the Kansas City Chiefs, and you've had some issues doing both of those things.
And there are big games coming up. I mean, next week's a big game. The Colts are not going to be pushovers.
Sure. I disagree that it's a big game. I agree that it's not a gimme. I agree with that.
Here's why it's a big game. It's a big game because you're in a stretch now where it's the Colts, and I don't know the order, the Patriots, the Titans, and the Steelers again. And
that's the order.
Is that the order?
Yes,
okay.
That's the order.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to beat teams that are other playoff teams. These are the 5 teams that we know are going to be in the playoffs. They are.
Well, separate the Patriots. You just named the Patriots.
Well, the Patriots are going to be in the playoffs.
No, they're not. Stop it.
They're going to be in the playoffs.
Patriots have no chance of making the playoffs.
They do have a chance because you got 10 teams that make the playoffs. Apparently,
no, you got 7 teams. The Patriots are not sniffing the playoffs. Stop it.
That 7th team could be anybody. Right now, it's the Browns.
It really can't be anybody.
Right now, it's the Browns.
Actually, right now it's the Raiders.
Oh, now it's the Raiders. Yeah, because
they
Browns
beat the
put
Browns
up
today.
6
Correct.
points today.
Yes.
I'm just saying you need to put up a performance against another playoff team. You can't go to Indianapolis and lose now. You can't throw up a stinker against Tennessee. You can't lose to the Patriots. And then you got the Steelers again, which, quite frankly, I don't expect you to beat them.
I agree with all of those things. I'm not panicked about it. I'm not. Again, today they almost ended up. They were a play away from having a chance to win this football game.
I'm not panicked about it, except in the sense that when it's a quote unquote big game to the Ravens, playoffs, Chiefs, Steelers, we're now 0 for our last 4 in those situations.
No, that's also not true. You're doing fuzzy math there to try to make it work. You're trying to combine the fact they lost 1 to the Steelers and 3 to the Chiefs and try to make it 0 for their last 4. They beat the Steelers twice last year. Now, I get it. They didn't have Ben Roethlisberger. I understand that. Okay. But you're doing fuzzy math.
Ben's now 6-1 in his last 7 games against the Ravens.
I hear you. I'm just letting you know that. Don't use that stat this week. Come up with a different way of saying it. That stat doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's not accurate.
If I say it enough, people will believe it.
It's not true. From Tim, I think I just saw Cam Hayward fake 2 injuries. I don't buy that for a second.
Why would he stop the clock at the last one?
Yeah, I mean that doesn't help his team in any way.
In any way.
I mean, I have no idea where the thought process would be that would be smart.
You want to make the notion that by him getting hurt they got to set their defense. Whatever. I mean, the
Ravens were going to spike the ball there. They were going to be able to set their defense. There's no benefit from Cam Hayward faking an injury there. I have no clue where that's coming from. Phil wants to know about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Did you say? He says, "How about your boy?" All right, that's a different game. Well, the Ravens played the Steelers today. That's what I'm worried about.
I didn't say anything about.
I don't know. I don't know. What did he do? I don't care.
Nothing.
I don't care. Don't care. Tired of Harbs not making any damn adjustments. Yes, Lamar had a bad game, but come on. All right, Jonathan. Let's separate those two things. The story is Lamar had a bad game.
Yes.
Do I have problems beyond that? Sure. But the first does not nullify the second in any way. The second one is the story. The latter is the part that matters here. The Ravens were in it despite the fact that Lamar had a bad day because they were dominant running the football. They were absolutely dominant gashing running the football. Period. Now, to Ken's point, I disagree with going empty backfield on 4th and 3. I don't like that. When your players are screaming to you to challenge, that's not, hey, I have to do it. That's not the way that it works. I get it. That looked close. But that timeout really ended up hurting them badly at the end of the football game. And sure, they are also able to use the timeout there to draw up a 3rd down play that worked to score a touchdown. You can make that argument, but you're going to need to assume when you play the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you play in these types of games, you're going to have to assume you need your timeouts at the end of the game. You're going to need them. And there was never a point at which it was clear that that was the wrong call. Now, what it was, hey, it's really close. And it shouldn't have been because a better throw should have been made on that play to your wide receiver in the end zone.
Correct.
But it was close, no doubt. When you look up at the board and you see, hey, it's not there, we got to go run a play. We got to be ready to go score a touchdown here. That timeout really hurt them because it was the difference in getting the ball back with 55 seconds left or whatever it was, and getting the ball back with 1:30 left. I don't disagree. All of these things are problems. Your quarterback didn't play well.
I hate you.
Why?
You know why I hate you?
Why?
Because you're going to make me do something I don't like to do.
You can lose your mind if you want to lose your mind. No, I'm not going to
lose my mind.
You can lose your mind if you want to lose your mind.
No, I'm going to be very calm today. I am not a fan, as it's been blatantly obvious for at least 3 years now, of this coaching staff. Okay? I actually thought at that point of the game it was a decent challenge. It may have been, in my opinion, better than about 10 other challenges that he's made over the past umpteen years. I thought it was close enough
No.
I do.
No.
I do.
No.
I thought it was close enough that it was challengeable. I just did. I expect, and I even said this because I was having a text conversation with a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and he's like, "Do you challenge this?" I said, "It's close enough. I think you do."
No.
I think you do.
That's a first half challenge you can make. You cannot run the risk of losing a timeout in a game like this on a play that isn't obviously wrong.
And everything you said was right because he was wide open and he needed to make a better throw, and you wound up scoring anyway, the touchdown on the next play. And I understand that. I just thought momentum. You can't assume the touchdown on the next play.
I'm not assuming the touchdown in any world.
I thought it was a decent enough challenge. I've seen plenty of challenges with this coaching staff that were just god-awful with no chance whatsoever.
But that's not my standard for whether or not it's okay to piss away a timeout.
It's not okay to piss away a timeout. I thought it was an
ultimately he didn't
challenge.
he didn't have much of a choice because his players all started panicking and pretending like it was a touchdown and forcing him to because they weren't ready to go run a play. That's a bigger problem that speaks on them, on coaching, on the whole deal.
Yes.
It's not the way this works. The players aren't the ones who get to officiate the game. They got to be ready to go and run a play.
They do. I agree with that. Again, I didn't think I don't
By the
think
way,
it was as bad a challenge.
It was only in live. It didn't appear at all like it was a touchdown.
No.
It was only getting a slow-mo replay that even made it look close.
Correct.
But ultimately, there was never a time at which it was a touchdown.
But that's what the referees are supposed to do. And the last one I saw was like, you know what? Maybe they overturned this. When to me for a touchdown, it's maybe they overturned this. In a close game, I get it. You wanted the timeout. I didn't think it was an atrocious challenge. That's all I'm going to say.
That's not a standard that works for me in games like this. That standard's not good enough for me in these types of games. By the way,
lots of things
I think there's an argument that you should be making. The argument is this is exactly why it is that the replay system sucks. This is why the system is garbage and why the coaches shouldn't be the ones that have to challenge it. Because it is unfair that on a close play you got to decide. But you have to have the ability to know very quickly, is this correct or not? Be ready to go to run the next play. Tell your guys, wait till there's 1 second left on the play clock to snap the ball because we want to get as many looks as we possibly can. Do all of those things. But at the end of the day, that timeout is too valuable in a game like this to do that in the second half of a football game.
Again, I thought the touchdown versus the possible having to kick a field goal there.
Well, if it was a touchdown, I would agree with you.
Again.
All right.
I didn't think it was the worst challenge in the world.
Back to the comments.
Yes.
From Richard, had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Yeah, I mean, typically the Ravens are normally really good coming out of the bye. Yeah. And there's a lot of weird involved, and we have to be fair to that. There's a lot of weird involved with today's game. The weather was weird. Yes, it was insane how many times the ball came out today. Yes. But the weather was weird and was an impact on that, and we can't be dismissive of that or suddenly pretend like it's a team that struggles to hold on to the football. It was a bad day because of weather, and that impacted that. It was a weird day in that you lost your left tackle. Now, you're going to have to get used to that. I don't know if the announcement was made. John Harbaugh just met with the media, but we're all kind of working under the assumption that it's going to be like that moving forward, that you're going to have to play without your left tackle. But again, it's an extraordinary amount of weird that was involved with this, and yet it was still a 28-24 game. It was still a game in which it came down to a final play despite the amount of weird. Yes, Ronnie Stanley is out for the year with an ankle injury, so that's official. We kind of knew that was coming. I'm disappointed in this result. It makes the game in Pittsburgh all that much more important, but I don't feel as though this is a Ravens team that can't go win that game in Pittsburgh. Again, there was a lot of weird that had to go into this. A lot of it, and your quarterback's got to play better. There's no question about that. Must. AJ, we lost to a guy who can't throw past 10 yards. It's hard. All right, for God's sakes. He's going to bitch about the refs. Josh threw the ball too much. I don't know what that is.
I think there were situations that I would have liked to see them run, but I don't think they ran. Look,
they ran the ball 47 times today.
I don't.
And I get it, 17 of the or 16 of those were from Lamar, but like that's part of
they
the.
were called. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 that were rushes because he was the pass rush was coming. But no, folks, I'm on your side. I'm the first one. I mean, you
like nothing more than killing the coaching.
I would love to kill the coaching staff. I would love to kill. Look, I killed them in a 27-3 win. I mean, I was killing them because they threw the ball almost 50 times, and they were up 27 in a 27-3 win where it was never in doubt, and they're having their quarterback throw 50 times. Today wasn't one of those days. They ran the ball. They ran the ball effectively. Now, would I have liked to see 5 more? Would I have liked to see them run the same amount but not empty backfield?
Yes.
Would
I like to see them have come out on the first drive of the game and attempt to?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Like
yes.
There are circumstances by which we could say, hey, I think they could have done that. But ultimately, to try to make the story of the day about them throwing too much, the numbers are not there. You are not backed up in that feeling whatsoever. And even when they fell behind, the drive that ultimately came short on 4th down, they stuck to the run, even trailing, which is something we've criticized them for throughout the course of the season.
Yes.
Trailing in the 4th quarter, they stuck to the run. And they had the right idea, which is try to score and run clock. Problem is, they just didn't score.
They didn't score.
They had the right,
the
absolute correct strategy, run as much clock as you possibly can while attempting to score. They unfortunately got stopped 2 consecutive plays. Lamar Jackson trying to run himself to pick up the first down, and the Steelers did a very good job of answering the bell when Lamar Jackson middle of the field runs at that point.
So if we want to pick on some things. I mean, the running backs ran 31 times for over 200 yards and averaged over 6 yards a carry. I mean, I don't know how we can complain about that. You want to complain about some things is they have a wide receiver problem.
Yep.
Brown doesn't get open. He had 1 catch for 3 yards, and it was
a touchdown. Yes, correct. I mean, it was an important one, but yeah, sure.
I understand it. He's not open. He doesn't run a route tree. All he can do is run fast and go down.
I mean, for what it's worth, Miles Boykin was actually making plays in the first half.
He had his 2 targets. He's caught a touchdown. Okay, great. Andrews, they covered him up. Didn't work his way open. Maybe they used him to block a little bit. They decided to let Willie Snead be the guy that if he's going to be open, he's not going to kill us. I also don't like, to me, Dobbins is special. I just think he's special.
He appears to be, everything that we know about him would suggest he's capable of being that.
Okay.
Yes.
He's doing jumping jacks, waiting for a pass to come his way. Figure out a way to get him the ball. We didn't run a screen. You have a pass rush. You have a pass rush that is pinning their ears back every down and coming out. You did nothing to slow him down. You threw that one bubble screen early. I think it was the second play of the game, which was dropped. But that's how you slow down a pass rush. You did nothing of that. You need to.
I both hear you and yet still come back to the quarterback's got to play better.
I understand that, but call a play that can help you out. If your quarterback's struggling, what do? Let's give him some easy throws, get him some confidence.
I got you. Paul in Orlando, I know Pittsburgh is a top defense, but any chance Skura gets replaced at center? Felt like he was getting beat a lot by Bugs, or it's not. Who's Bugs?
Bud Dupree.
Whoever Pittsburgh had over the center.
Oh.
Probably too much to expect Cologne Castillo to be ready, I suppose. Yeah, no, I don't.
You're down 2 offensive linemen.
I mean, I don't know what Tyree Phillips' long-term situation is going to be, but yeah, your first option would be to have McCary play center at that point, but right now he's got to play guard.
Usually when they rule you out before halftime,
it's not a good sign. Yes, correct. So. Look, Matt Skura didn't play well today. I got no problem doing that. He didn't play particularly well. Yes, Pittsburgh's front is about as good as one you're going to face during the course of the season, and that's a factor in it. I don't think the conversation will be about replacing Skura, but he's definitely got to play better. I don't think we can. Let's not dance past that. From Scott, Jackson played like trash. We need better play out of the quarterback position.
No argument.
Well, then today, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. He's got to play better than he played today.
Yes.
There is absolutely no way to debate or further discuss that. Lamar Jackson was not good enough today, period. He was not. And that's a problem because it's now 0 for 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to get plenty more opportunities, including coming up here in just a few weeks. But he's got to do it. He has to play better against the Pittsburgh Steelers, period. Jeff, the whole game changed on that interception in the third quarter. 100%. 100%. Unfortunately, when we needed 3 yards most at the 2-minute warning, we did not get it. Wish we chose a play other than a Lamar run play on that play. Well, yeah, whatever. As we've talked about before, we just wouldn't go empty backfield.
I don't have a problem. I don't have the problem with keeping the ball in your best player's hands to pick up the first down.
Right.
My problem is it's one of two things. He's either, if it's a run and you got to spy on Lamar, he's coming up the middle. So it's not hard to it's not like, it's not the indefensible offense that we heard about all offseason.
Yes, to go back to the first point though, I don't know that we're really respecting how much the game changed there. I mean, this was a 17-7 game at the half that the Ravens were dominating.
They had the Pittsburgh offense did nothing.
Zero
nothing
in the first half. And then they did nothing on the first drive of the second half.
Yes.
And the Ravens had the ability to go again, put their boot right on the necks.
Like they did at the end of the game. 7-minute ball control drive, shorten the game. We're throwing the ball.
Yep. Now, again, as I said, you're going to have to throw the ball at some point. You're going to.
You didn't have to there.
You didn't have to throw it there. I don't disagree with that, and probably shouldn't have. I'm not. Here's what I'm going to say. This comes back to if your quarterback is going to do that.
I know.
I don't know that it matters what you're doing throughout the course of the game. Your quarterback can't do that. I can't let him off the hook. Do I think they should have come out and just run the ball? I do. But ultimately, a short ball in the flats, it was not a spectacular play. It was a bad ball. Period. That's on Lamar. I got nothing else to say. It's on Lamar.
Yeah.
John from Little Rock, Jackson needs to get out of the pocket on the final play. That breaks the D and gets you some separation. I mean, he definitely was throwing into quadruple coverage on the final play.
Yes.
Could have gotten bailed out by a call to the head that would have given them one more shot from the 2-yard line, but I mean, it would have been an ultimate bailout. Like,
yeah.
But would there have been a letter of the law there that I would have been okay with? Like, yeah, letter of the law, that might have worked, but it would have been a bailout for the sake of a bailout. Josh Stroke, it's not Lamar versus the big game. It's this offense versus the come from behind. We aren't built to come back. I'm missing something.
But they
here.
did today. See, these are all things, folks. I'm with you. I'm one of you. I would be complaining about this. I was ready at the start of this game for lots of things, but they did all the things.
By the way, that guy's name is Bugs.
Bugs?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Sorry. Who do I owe an apology to?
Yeah.
Paul. I'm sorry. It is Bugs.
It is Bugs.
I'm sorry.
It is Bugs. They came back in this game. I mean, they did it. They came back, and they came back from running the ball. They could have very easily, as we've seen them in many times that they've been down, abandoned the run and just say, okay, we got to score.
They didn't
quickly.
do that.
They didn't do it this time.
They did the opposite of that.
Even the last drive, and look, the last drive, there's seven and change in the last drive, and it's like, well, what if they don't score here? Don't you want them to hurry up a little bit more?
No.
Well, wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute. No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I want them to.
Well, I'm answering. I'm doing the hypothetical. You're asking me a hypothetical question. I'm giving you a hypothetical answer.
Somebody could say, your job is to go score as quickly as you can because, you want to leave time if they come back. And I was like, no, the ball control. They ran the ball. They weren't panicking. They didn't go 3 and out from 3 passes as we've seen them do in the past. They ran the ball. They got into a good situation.
If they convert on the 4th down, and let's even create a scenario where they convert on either one of these plays. So they have the ball at the 10-yard line, 3rd and 5. If on either of those 2 plays they convert, they now force the Steelers to have to start calling their timeouts. If they score, which is all that matters, because if they don't, they're losing no matter what. If they score, Now, Pittsburgh gets the ball back with maybe, I don't know, a minute and a half to play and no timeouts. And again, Ben Roethlisberger did a fairly good job in the second half with the empty backfield, but that's basically one sack away from ending the game. They did everything right.
In fact,
they just didn't convert the fourth down play.
I mean, first, right. And that's it. Run, run, run. Again, don't like the formation with empty backfield. I'm with you. Maybe would have, instead of coming up the gut, get Lamar on the edge and see if something breaks out and then let him run. Okay. I could go for different scenarios there. But they did it the right way. They just did. And I want to beat them up for it, but I can't. And it comes back to Lamar. Lamar can't turn the ball over 3 times in a game that we all know is always one possession. 90% of the time, it's a one-possession game. And
none of them were fluky. This isn't a tip ball. This was he turned it over 3 times and was lucky as F that it was only 3 times. He got extraordinarily fortunate that it wasn't more than that. He's got to play better, period. Brandon, a resident Steelers fan, reminds us that it's as you pointed out, I think too. But Ben Roethlisberger 6-1 in his last 7 against the Ravens.
I pointed that out. Thank you for paying attention.
There were some painful years, and today it's in a way it's a similar feeling to Antonio Brown stretching across the goal line, right? Because it really does come down to one play. This time you just didn't make it. They made it the last time. This time you just didn't make it. From Jeff, unfortunately, Lamar's play let Pittsburgh back in the game. Did not have to be that way. 100%. We just talked about that interception. Interception turned the game.
Turned the entire game around. Gave them life after, okay, we don't have it on offense today. After their first drive of the second half, you're kind of thinking, okay, it's just not our day offensively.
Yep.
This defense is really good. And what'd you do?
Gave them everything.
You're like, oh, we've played like garbage, and we're down 3 points.
Paul, in the second quarter, it felt like the Ravens coaching staff finally realized Lamar didn't have his fastball today, so to speak, and decided to run the ball down Pittsburgh's throat.
I think that was Stanley going out more than anything else.
That's what it appeared to be to me, but let's stick with it for a second. Then they come out after halftime and throw right off the bat. Just don't understand why Ravens always seem to have OCs outside of Kubiak that don't want to stick with what's working. Do they think it's too boring to call the same plays over and over? Ha. Again, I'm going to say 2 things. It's easy for me to say, hey, I would have loved for them to come out and dominate running the ball. That might have been the only pass play that they intended to call on the entire drive. It might very well be that they assumed Pittsburgh was going to key into the run, and so they had something working on that play, but then they were going to go right back to running the ball the rest of the drive. I don't know. Yeah. We're complaining about what at some point, even in a game that you're dominating on the ground, your quarterback's going to have to throw the football. We're angry about one play call. Mm-hmm. That's not the problem. The problem is that your quarterback made an insane, terrible throw.
Got to throw it out of bounds. It's not open, throw it out of bounds.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yep.
We're gonna obsess over this. Yes, if you want a place to obsess, out of the chute, it made no sense the Ravens wanted to win this game throwing the ball today. Obsess over that. But to obsess over what the idea that the problem there is the call, it does not work. The problem there is the throw. The problem there is the player didn't execute it. Now, if that play had been converted and the Ravens mixed in, threw the ball 5 more times, we might have a different conversation. You're talking about one play. At some point, even on a day where you're running the ball a ton, you're going to have to throw the football. And your quarterback can't do that.
Nope.
Josh. You guys are right. No, thank you. We'll just end it there. Throwing too much is not right. It's the situations that frustrated. I still think we're really getting.
I don't think they threw too much.
Well, they did. I mean, he's saying he's really angry about specific situations where they threw.
I get it. You can be upset by that, but let's go to 2 passes. One that didn't get intercepted that should have been at the end of the first half. It's a terrible throw. You can only do one thing. You've dominated this team. There's only one thing you can't do, and that's turn the ball over, and he throws a terrible ball. Don't even know who he's throwing to.
Fact. I
Okay?
I got
and
nothing.
then you come out, again, both Glenn and I have said, I would have loved if they came out, started their first possession of the second half after Pittsburgh goes 3 and out, if they just said, you know what, we have dominated this team, we're going to take their heart away, and we're going to go on a 15-play, 8-minute drive, and even if we only get 3, we're going to run the ball down their throats just like we did the entire first half, and I would have liked to see them do that. They decided they saw something at halftime. Whatever. This play's going to be open. It was not. You know what has to happen? Your quarterback has to throw it to a coach.
Just say, look, we tried it. It didn't work. Let's go right back to it. Let's go right back to running the ball.
And then you get 6-7 yards on the next play, and it's third and manageable. Lamar was terrible today. And everybody that...
This doesn't mean Lamar's a bad quarterback. This doesn't mean that all of the talent evaluators are right. This is not...
Right. But if you want to believe that, this is your day. Well, congratulations.
I think the problem is we take this personal. And so we don't want to criticize Lamar Jackson.
No.
A certain percentage of us don't. Because we get offended by the insane criticism that we've heard. Yeah, I'm telling you, this isn't that. You can look yourself in the mirror and say, I still think that I got a really good quarterback. He's a damn good one, and I'm happy that he's my guy, and I think that at some point he's going to get paid $1 billion.
Correct.
But today, he sure as F wasn't good enough.
No, he was not.
He wasn't good. It's not even that he wasn't good enough. Again, this isn't about MVP standard.
He was bad today.
He was not a good quarterback today.
He made too many mistakes, too many poor throws, too many poor decisions. And the funny part is, you see within the same game how good he could be. Stepped up in the pocket, threw sidearm, all the things people want to criticize. Good sidearm pass to get somebody open.
Some bad ones mixed in too.
But then you saw the bad ones where you held onto the ball too long. You threw the sidearm
when it wasn't necessary.
Right.
Yep.
You take the good with the bad, but today there was way too much bad.
Yep, that's the reality.
And that's all it is.
All right, we're in the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Studio. I need 80 seconds to tell you about our great partners, and then we're going to come back in. We're going to think about what's ahead for the Baltimore Ravens. That's next. Glenn Clark, Ken Zalis with you on the Project Game Day post-game show after the Ravens lose 28-24.
Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is available now. Our fall seasonal menu is available for dine-in, dine-out, on the patio, or to-go. It's a new season, so enjoy new flavors. Try their new chicken schnitzel or the delicious Prussian pretzel rolls. Glory Days is open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. Visit glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. From the Glory Days Grill family, stay healthy and positive during this challenging time in our community.
Looking to get one up on the competition? Supercharge your computer skills. CCBC has classes at all levels from beginner to expert coder. Explore Microsoft Office, gaming, or even ethical hacker. Maybe hardware is your gig. Become A+ certified. All tuition free if you qualify. Call 443-840-4700 or visit ccbcmd.edu/quickreg.
With Wise Market's lowest price guarantee, we guarantee the lowest price in the area. If a local competitor advertises any of our tagged lowest price guarantee items at a lower price, we'll give you double the difference with purchase.
Eat better, spend less, that's Wise.
If you're looking to make an impact, there's no better place to do that than the U.S. Army. Whether your goal is to fight and cure deadly diseases, develop technologies, or seek adventures across the globe, the Army is where all of that can happen, and so much more. The Army is a team of 1 million individuals working together to take on the most complex problems in the nation and the world, and to win. Ask yourself, what's your warrior? Go to army.com/Baltimore to find out. To learn more, contact your local Army recruiter and find us on social media at U.S. Army Baltimore.
Project Game Day postgame show. Ravens lose to the Steelers 28-24. I've had a couple of people point out to me that apparently Miles Boykin was wide open in the end zone on the final play. I have not had a chance to go back and rewatch it, so
we start the show so.
I mean, it certainly did appear as though Lamar was zeroed in on that particular play, so I find it believable. I would also need to know if he was open because defenders came over to where the ball was coming, or if he really was just wide open and got lost, and somehow Lamar never looked. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, so I can't speak to it. I just haven't had a chance to look at it much. Paul, Unique didn't make any splash plays today, but how do you think he did for his first game with the Ravens? I mean, he applied pressures. In fact, one was on a third down that helped to get the Steelers off the field. He was involved. They need more from him, obviously. They need a bigger impact from Yannick Ngakoue, and it would help to have a little bit more time with both he and Matt Judon on the field together. And hopefully that starts next week with he and Matt Judon having more time on the field together. Unfortunately, that did not end up being the case today, as Matt Judon was not on the field for very long whatsoever. I have not seen anything from about Tyree Phillips yet. Quickly,
I didn't see anything on the.
What's that?
I haven't seen anything, and I've been looking.
Quickly, a statement from Matt Judon. I would never intentionally make contact with an official. I was attempting to free my arm as I was being held back, and I inadvertently contacted the official's arm. My emotions were running high in the moment. I take full responsibility for what happened. I need to do a better job of keeping my cool and not doing anything that negatively affects my team. I don't think anybody that looked at that on replay could really feel... Again, like the first time you're watching it in slow-mo, it really does look like he's punching the official, and then when you see the guy that's holding him back, you get a better understanding of exactly what's going on there. He's flailing, and that's what makes it kind of look bad. But there's no, like, if anybody who's trying to call out Matt Judon for being cheap or, you know, the types of things that dumb people like to say, it's not there. He says, I need to, you know, I'm responsible for all my actions. That's true, and yeah, it's an unfortunate place to even be involved in a fracas. It ends up costing, you know, the Ravens significantly because they lose Matt Judon for the rest of the game. But no, I don't think anybody believed that Matt Judon did anything intentional whatsoever. No. Yes, hopefully we'll get some more word on Tyree Phillips moving forward, but we know there will be no Ronnie Stanley for the rest of the season. Look, Ken, I don't want to oversell anything that's coming up. Like, we all knew this was the 5-game stretch of the Ravens that mattered. Like, we all knew this was kind of the season, right? Like, this was the part that mattered post-Chiefs, right? After we got past the Chiefs, this 5-game stretch, I have no reason. I'm not fearful right now of what's coming. The Ravens lost a football game. We don't experience that a lot. In fact, we haven't experienced the Ravens losing a close football game in some time. The losses last year, I mean, I guess the Browns game was sort of close, but it really wasn't. It didn't come down to a final play type of scenario. Yeah. It's been a while since it goes back to the start of the Lamar Jackson era and the Kansas City game that year since something like this has occurred. Sometimes you play well enough that you can win a game and don't. It happens. I'm not panicked about anything. I expect the Ravens to play well next week. I expect Lamar Jackson to play well next week. They are facing another good defense in Indianapolis, but I expect them to play well. That's my expectation. If they don't, I'll react to that then. But right now, my reaction is they lost a football game. It sucks they lost a football game. I don't think this means they're a bad football team. I think this means they have to play better.
Yes. And I agree with all that. And I'm not panicked about it, but I do have some concern. They play some defenses that are tough to run against, and they played the toughest one today and showed their dominance. I want that to continue.
I agree.
I don't want to see them go to Indianapolis, who has a really good defense, and struggle out the gate a little bit, fall behind, and get in throw mode. Same thing with New England. I get New England's not as good this year, but New England almost went to Buffalo and beat the Buffalo Bills today. If not for a fumble in the last seconds,
They might have.
They would have at least tied the game and gone to overtime on a day where they have no wide receivers at all because everybody's hurt. Harry and Edelman didn't play.
I'm still not fearful of the Patriots.
Fearful, but there are areas of concern. The Titans is going to be a mental check game for them at home because of last year.
Well, we're gonna have to. They got to get through these before we can even.
I understand.
Right.
I'm just saying there are things in the next 4. It's not a cakewalk. I think after that, it's a cakewalk. I think no matter what they do through Pittsburgh, they win their last 4 games. They get into the playoffs easily. They're going to need a lot of luck to win the division now because essentially you're 3 games back. If you beat Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving, you know, you can make some of that up. But
well, I mean, they need that. They need
have
that.
to- well,
I
they
don't.
have to.
I don't for a second think the Steelers are going to win out the rest of the way. The Steelers have been far too vulnerable. They are. Look, I get it. They're unbeaten. They deserve to be unbeaten. They deserve to win today. The whole deal. But there's nothing about them that strikes fear into you or suggests that they are the team to beat in the AFC or something along those
Dallas,
lines.
Cincinnati, Jacksonville are their next three.
I get it. You look at those
Ravens,
three, and
Washington, and then they finish with Buffalo, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. No, they're not going to go. They're not going to go undefeated, but they're also probably not looking at any more than 3 losses.
Oh, I don't disagree with that either.
So-
yeah, it puts your margin for error
At 0.
essentially.
Yes.
I mean, essentially at 0. Yes, no doubt about that. All right, we'll be talking about it all week. Clearly, as you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Look,
it is what it is.
Everybody can be as upset as they want. They can complain about the coaching. They can complain about
Quarterback's got to play better.
At the end of the day, 3 turnovers, could have been more, didn't play well enough, and you'll look at the end of the – if you didn't watch the game, you'll look at the stats and say, oh, he wasn't that bad. Yes, he was. Yes, he
well,
was.
the stats aren't good, but he was worse than that. Yes.
Well, exactly.
Yes,
That's what I'm
the
saying.
stats aren't good, but he was somehow worse than that.
He was worse than what
Yes.
the stats look like.
All right, at Fantasy on Twitter is how you follow him. He'll be in here Thursday for the Press Box Fantasy Football Show. I'll be with you again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for Glenn Clark Radio. Rita's joining us tomorrow morning because
Nice.
she bailed on us today, and she'll be back with us next Sunday for Project Game Day. Thanks again to Wise Markets and the U.S. Army for making Project Game Day happen. We've been in the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Studio. Again, the Ravens lose today 28-24. Bummer. Bummer. We'll talk to you next week. It's been the Project Game Day postgame show.